Today we'll be talking about hunting here in western Pennsylvania, one of the favorite sports throughout the state, in fact, throughout the country. We'll be talking with a taxidermist, what happens after the hunt, what he does with a deer. Also, we'll be talking about food processing and how that works. And then we'll talk with an organization called the Hunters Sharing the Harvest. And this is an organization that provides food for the hungry throughout Pennsylvania. But first, let's talk about taxidermy. What happens after the hunt? And with us is Bob Sarnees here in Prospect, Pennsylvania. Now, Bob, you've been a hunter all your life, I know. And when did you become a taxidermist and why?
I started back in 1999, and I got injured at a job I was working at. I had always threatened I was going to be a taxidermist, and a couple of taxidermists in the area, they seemed to be taking forever to get stuff done, and I said, well, there's a niche in this market. So I went to school for it back in 99, and I've been doing it ever since.
Now, when you went to school, had you had any experience beforehand dressing a deer or taking care of what happens after the hunt?
I've always hunted and trapped, so I knew how to skin them out. And so it was relatively easy for me to, go to school and be waiting on the rest of a class that had never turned anything inside out before. But I didn't have any problem with it, and graduated out of school. Went to, I got tested by the Game Commission back in the day. They tested you. It wasn't send $100 to Department of Agriculture to get your taxidermy license. They actually tested you written, orally, and made you mount something in front of them so they knew that you knew what you were doing. And then I passed that test on the first go, and I haven't looked back.
Now, there are taxidermists and there are taxidermists. Some are very good and some are maybe not so good. What makes a good taxidermist? What kind of work do you do that's special?
It's a learning process. Even after 20 years, I still learn new stuff. Even if you go to school, they're going to show you the basics, and then you have to learn on your own or through these classes that you go to, or the taxidermy shows where they put on seminars, and learn the up to date things that taxidermists do to make their mounts look lifelike.
Now, you do deer and you do bear and you do turkeys and you do other animals, but one of the intriguing parts of what's here in your shop are fish. Wouldn't that be a very delicate operation?
It can be frustrating at times because, like, I've fished my whole life, so I know what these fish look like. So if they aren't looking like they're supposed to look whenever it's time for them to leave, they are not leaving. The taxidermist has to have reference pictures on top of reference pictures and know what these animals look like. If you don't have the eyes right, or if you have the coloration wrong on a fish, it's not going to look right.
Can you remember or think about how many jobs you've had over these last many years?
I have no idea. I know I've done in excess of probably 2,000 deer and fish. I'm way up there too. So, and birds also. So it's an ongoing thing.
Now, I know you've got some things to say to those hunters out there who bag a deer and what they should or should not do before they take that deer out of the field.
Right. There's a lot of guys, they're all excited, and I understand, their adrenaline's pumping, but, they do some things and they want to make my job harder because they're cutting up stuff that shouldn't be cut up. And, it's just, my number one thing is if you have a question, call them. I have guys call me from the woods asking what to do, and which is pretty nice to be on speed dial on some hunter in the middle of the woods calling you up and saying, hey, I got this deer, what do I do? But because the quality of the mount starts with the hunter in the field.
All right, let's find out what they shouldn't do, just as a precaution so they don't go in the wrong direction before they mess things up.
Okay. First thing, whenever they get their animal, whenever they shoot the deer, whether it's a deer or bear, you have to tag it. That's number one priority in Pennsylvania. Okay, a lot of guys, they like to take their hunting knife that they've been sharpening all season long, and it's a wide bladed thing, and they want to poke a hole in the ear to put that tag in. Well, that knife, if it's a wide bladed one, I have to fix that ear, so you don't want to be doing that. All I use is a little safety pin, put it through your tag, put that diaper pin into that deer's ear, and there you go, it's tagged. Bears, same way, with the tag in the ear. And a lot of guys get carried away gutting it too. They want to, cut the entrails out, and they want to go clear up to the brisket or halfway up the neck. Well, there's no guts behind the deer's neck, so keep your holes small and try to pull the stuff out if you're planning on taking it to get it mounted.
Now, once they have a deer out in the field, do they go to the deer processor first, or should they come to the taxidermist first?
Well, I will skin your deer if you bring it here, and I don't have 10 people waiting in line here. But I recommend they take it to a reputable processor who knows how to cape that deer and let him do it. Now, there's going to be a fee involved, and of which it's worth it if you're going to get it mounted. That way it's done properly. And you don't have to worry about, I cut it wrong here, did that. That way it's done.
Are there many people that have their fish mounted?
Well, being as I have Moraine State Park in my backyard, yeah, there's quite a few. As you can see, I have guys going clear to New York, and I even got a cutthroat in from Colorado one year. So, if you make it look good, right, they're going to come back.
Now, I know they do have a really good reputation. Do people come from many different states, far and wide, to come here because of what you do?
I've had people come from Texas, Florida, New York, Ohio. Yes, they come here. And a lot of it's word of mouth, word of mouth, or they saw my stuff on Facebook or something like that, and they just show up, and I must be doing something right because they're still coming.
Well, let's talk about that. What is it that you do right? What is it that you do that's different from others?
The best thing is just pay attention to the details. You got to pay attention to the details and make it look right, and make it, if you're got a habitat scene, make it look like the woods floor. Don't make it look, bad, or just and the eye set thing is number one in taxidermy. If you don't have those eyes set right, that animal's not going to look correct. I don't care if it's a coyote or a deer or a bear or whatever, or an elephant.
Now, once the meat is taken away from the deer, all that's left is skin and antlers and the head. How do you work with that to make it into a mounted trophy?
Well, the head gets skinned. You have to take measurements, the eye to nose measurement. That's key for me. The neck measurement isn't so much until after that hide is tanned. And once that hide is tanned, then it can be measured to the size form it needs. Every one of these deer is different. Every deer is different. Every turkey's different. And you have to have the measurements of the animal so you can get a form, an appropriate form so it fits.
Now, you say a form. What is that?
That's a styrofoam insert that fits on the inside of the animal. That once the hide is tanned, then you put the hide on there and put the eyes in. They're glass eyes and ear liners, and reattach the rack to it, and there you go. Make it look like a deer.
So it's an art, isn't it?
I guess, yes. I don't like to use that term as an artist, but I guess I am in a sense. So,
let's talk about one other item here. I've noticed that in that bear right behind us, that it's not just the bear that's mounted, but there's what's under the bear. It looks like it's a natural foliage or a natural habitat.
Well, that's key too. Taxidermists have to realize that this hunter is going to be looking at this for the rest of his life. So you want it to make it, look lifelike as possible. I'll even put deer tracks in my coyote mounts, or turkey tracks in the dirt, that's underneath there. And the dirt is all glued in there, and it's not going to fall off or any of that stuff. Everything is all secure, but, it's just nice to add a little bit of extra so that the guys can see, wow, that's cool, and
now, let's look back over the years. You've been doing this for many, many, many years. Is there one particular job that stands out as maybe the best work you've ever done?
If it's not the best work I've ever done, it's not leaving here. So, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. They're all individual. They are all great. And, I've done a few bears that were extremely large, and, those are interesting.
What's the most unusual job you've had, the most unusual taxidermy work that you had to do?
I've done a couple iguanas for a woman. I've done Siamese cat for a woman back whenever they were showing that freeze-dried show on TV. The phone was ringing off the hook with dead pets. Well, I'm a taxidermist. I'm not a funeral director, so I can't, you know what I mean? They come in here crying and all this, and it's like, oh my God, I can't deal with this, So wild animals only, no pets.
Well, some people now are interested in learning more. Do you have something on the computer that they might be able to tap into?
Yes, technology. I have a Facebook page under Bob Sarnice, and you can go to that page, and then there's a link that says Sarnice's Taxidermy on it, and then you can find pictures of all my work. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. And if you have a question, just shoot me a question, and I'll answer it for you, or call my shop. And I'm here 7 days a week, so I'm here.
Bob, thanks very much.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Now let's find out something about the food processing part of this whole operation. And now we're in Cabot, Pennsylvania, here in Butler County, and Dan McCruitt is a deer processor. Now, is it different processing deer as compared with beef and pork?
Hi, Larry. How you doing, buddy? Yes, it is a little bit different. Our beef and pork is our usual business all year round, and then in the winter season we do a lot of deer. It's a big deal for us. We do quite a few. Most years 700 to 800, 900 deer, depending on the hunters, and a lot of differences to it. It's exciting at first, and after a while it gets a little old, and then you just want it to end at some point.
How long does it take to process a deer?
It varies. Deer, there's big ones, there's small ones, but on average you have 15, 20 minutes in skinning and cleaning and put in a cooler. And then in a later date, a day or two later, you may have another half hour in getting it all cut and packaged. And then a lot of hunters will get some extra stuff made, like bologna, kibasi, jerky, which adds extra time to it. But in reality, it doesn't take that long.
I understand you learned how to be a meat cutter when you were about 16 years old?
Yes, when I was 16, I started my senior year in high school, and I walked into the cutaway market in Butler, which was a pretty high-powered place, and I was a cleanup boy, and I worked there after school throughout the school year. And when I graduated, then I quit there, and I went to work at Miller's Meats. And I did a couple years stint down there, and then I ended up at Pullman Standard for a little bit, painting railroad cars, and then they closed. And then I ended up going back to my original job at Cutaway, and I spent another 3 years there. So that was my whole work experience up until like 22 years old or something like that, 23.
And what's the most difficult part about learning how to be a meat cutter?
Having a good teacher is important. Because anyone can kind of do it, but unless you have like good mentors to actually help you save from making mistakes, that's pretty valuable. And I had that. I had 5, 6, 7 guys that were pretty hardcore meat cutters / experience, and I tutored under them guys. And then I've been doing my own thing.
Now, I understand that when you look at a really good meat cutter, they work pretty fast. Is that a tough process to get into?
Yeah, it looks easy. Well, when I first started out, I thought I had this stuff down pat, no problem. And then once I actually started doing it, I realized that I didn't know diddly. And you cut the heck out of your hands. And it takes a few years to get through that. And then it takes about another 10 years just to get smoothed out. So once you have 10, 15 years in, then you realize how little you know and how dumb you are. So then you chase it the whole rest of your life trying to get good at it.
Now here you don't grow your own cattle, do you?
No. We do work for the farmers in the area that sell beef and pigs, and we're like the middle guy. We'll take the animal live, we'll kill it, skin it, cut it to the customer, wrap it, package it, and give it back to the customers. So we don't raise animals. No.
Would it be easy for you to teach somebody else to be a meat cutter?
It used to be easy because people would like to want to learn, but not today. I've given up. The millennials aren't worth teaching. How's that? I don't want to teach them. I don't want
Now, your work habits must have been pretty good. I understand you were an Eagle Scout with about 47 merit badges, so you were a pretty ambitious guy.
That's true. I did. I was in scouting my younger days, and I excelled at that. But I owed all that to my father and grandfathers. They were pretty strict, we might say, and tough. And that was the only thing I knew growing up. Like, you didn't sleep in, You didn't lay around. You didn't watch TV. Like, you got to work, and that was a good upbringing.
And what advice would you have for some of the deer hunters out there before they bring the deer into you to process them?
Well, we see a lot of bad things on our side. One of our big pet peeves is they're not washed out or cleaned out properly, and that has a big effect on the quality of the meat. So my advice to deer hunters is once they kill their buck or doe is get the belly out, get it all cleaned out, get it home, take a hose, wash it out real nice and clean. Don't skin it. We prefer them not skinned. And then take it to whoever you like as your meat processor. Take it to them. If the weather's on the warm side, put a couple bags of ice inside the carcass, one between the legs and one in the chest cavity. And when you show up at a meat packer's place and present them with a deer like that, they get happy.
Well, you've been out here some time. How long have you been in Cabot, and why here?
Well, I was born in Saxonburg, but when I was 2 or 3, my father bought a farm here in Cabot, so I've been here since then. And I'm 58 now, and I've been cutting meat here on this farm since 82. So however long that is, it's a good bit.
If somebody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Sure, we're here every day, 8 to 4, and Monday through Friday. You can call us and check in, ask questions. We're a full-service shop. We do everything, beef, deer, pork, lamb. We do a lot of wild game in the winter season. We've done everything you can shoot in North America: elk, moose, caribous, bears, lots. Last year, I think we did 13 bears. Made all kinds. That's an interesting thought right there.
Dan, thanks very much. Good to see you. Thanks for having us out.
Thanks, Larry. You take care.
There's a very impressive and amazing program here in Pennsylvania called Hunters Sharing the Harvest, where hunters take their deer and offer the venison to an organization that provides food for needy people, for hungry people in Pennsylvania. And Tom Rossman from Butler is the Western Division State Coordinator. Now, Tom, this is an amazing program. How long ago did it start?
Started in 1991. I think that's 26 years ago. In Harrisburg, one man from the Game Commission, another was state representative, decided that there was a lot of venison going to waste and should be put into some use. So they started Hunters Sharing the Harvest.
Let's talk about the scope of this. How many deer are offered to your organization, and how many pounds of meat are the results?
Throughout the state, probably we're running around 3,000 deer a year are donated. This year, my last report was 130,000 pounds in the state of Pennsylvania, and here in Butler County, about 10,000 pounds.
Now, how is the venison distributed? What kind of local organizations do that?
We have 4 processors who grind all of the venison into burger and package it in 1, 2, and 5 pound packages. Then we take it to a freezer that XTO Energy bought for us, and we distribute it from there. We have at present 32 agencies that use the venison. I send out emails occasionally and say, we have a good supply of venison. We're going to distribute next week and such a date, and come and pick it up. So,
are these agencies the regular food banks that we know of in western Pennsylvania?
Food banks and hot meals. There's a hot meal served every day of the week in Butler, in the city of Butler, through the churches and the Salvation Army. Even Sunday, they are providing a meal, and all of those agencies, all of those churches use the venison periodically. It's not enough to keep them going all the time, but they depend on handouts from various agencies and donations from various congregations to keep them going, and the venison helps a lot.
Does it surprise you that the hunters don't keep the meat for themselves?
No, not really, because we have so many opportunities to get extra license in Pennsylvania now. For example, I could have shot 4 deer this year. I had a buck license, and three antlerless license. And fortunately, I was able to harvest 2 deer, and I donated them both.
Is there any way that you can tell whether many of the hunters give up all of their deers for this program?
Well, many of them do. Some of them don't really enjoy eating the venison. They hunt for the sport of hunting. They like to be in the woods. They like to be out in the wild, and so they simply donate whatever they get. On the other hand, if a person kills or harvests 2 deer, maybe he can only use 1, and he donates the second one to Hunters Sharing the Harvest, to one of our processors. We have 4 processors in Butler County, and they skin them, cut them up, grind them, and package them, freeze them for us.
Tom, are there some people, some hunters that don't know about your program?
I'm sure there are, because I get calls periodically. Someone will run across our website and call and say, "Hey, I didn't know about you people, and I harvested a deer last year and gave it to my neighbor because we had more than we could use. Maybe you folks would like to have it." So we take all comers.
It's a remarkable program. Let's talk about some numbers. Now, how many deer are donated to this organization, and how many pounds of meat, venison, comes out of it?
Well, in Pennsylvania, my last report was 130,000 pounds was donated, and that's about 3,000 deer, a little over 3,000 deer. You get 40 pounds, approximately average 40 pounds of ground venison out of every deer. Some more, some less, but it averages around 40 pounds. And we still had 9 processors who had not reported in for the last hunting season yet. Some of them don't need their money very quick, so they don't send us the bill. We don't know how many they've processed.
Well, Tom, this is an amazing program that probably surprises a lot of people watching in today. Congratulations. I know you're a volunteer and spend many, many hours doing this. Thanks for what you're doing, and I'm sure that many people benefit from this program.
Yeah, if any hunters are out there that see the program and don't know about it and want more information, they can call me, 724-283-0449, or they can go on the Hunters Sharing the Harvest website, which is sharedeer.org, I believe. But and they get the website, and it lists all of the processors. We have 4 processors in Butler County. Almost every county in the state has some processors. So if they don't live in Butler County and they want to take it to Allegheny County, or they live in Allegheny County, they take the processor there. Lawrence County, Clarion County, they all have processors. So they all get put to good use, and none of that meat goes to waste.
So you're a volunteer, Tom. I imagine you need other volunteers to help in the process?
Yes, the whole organization is volunteers. Even the only paid is our administrative assistant in Harrisburg and our executive director. The only 2 paid positions. Everything else is volunteer. All the directors, all of the coordinators throughout the county, all of the people that help carry it around. I have probably half a dozen people I can call on at most any time to come and help me load venison. If you get 400 or 500, 600 pounds of venison, for a guy my age, it gets a little heavy. So I call on the younger guys to come and help me, and it's important that we get those volunteers involved, because I can't do it all myself.
Tom, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So today's program is about hunting and the results of hunting, the trophies and the taxidermists, and also the food processors, and of course the Hunters Sharing the Harvest program, which you just heard about. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.